What up, everybody, and welcome to Baz on Blades. My name is Baz, and I talk about blades. Today's feature blade is from Medford Knife and Tools, and what we've got in the house for your viewing pleasure is the Medford Knife and Tools Praetorian Production Folder. This is a new, lower cost, full production version of the very popular Praetorian folder from Medford Knife and Tools. And, you know, I love the Praetorian design. It is such a good looking design. And I really like Medford Knife and Tools. I think Greg Medford is a certified nut who is not afraid to say what he thinks. He is the type of non-PC person that just makes me smile. And I think the world needs more people like that, to be perfectly honest. Now, the Praetorian model is a big, beefy folder, guys. Look at this. This is beefy, beefy, beefy. And like I said, this is a new production version from Medford for 2018. And now I'm going to go into this review. First, let me say, this knife was provided for a pass-around group of reviewers, YouTube reviewers, by Blade HQ. And I know you guys have heard me mention Blade HQ multiple times on my channel, along with all the other reviewers, knife reviewers on YouTube. We all love Blade HQ. You know, I buy a lot from them. I use them as a reference for prices and for specifications and availability. They are just a really a great online retailer with a huge selection of just every brand and type of knife that you could ever want. I am going to leave a link in the description section of this video to the Praetorian production or the Medford knives, depending on how I link it, on Blade HQ's website. Go over there and check them out, guys. Blade HQ is straight up 100% honest and dependable as a company. I can and wholly do recommend them as a retailer. All right. Now, I'm going to do this review a little bit different than the way I typically do. I have tried to film this 4 or 5 times. The best I've been able to do is about 35 minutes. And you know what? I love to hear myself talk, but even I get tired of listening to myself at 35 minutes. That's crazy. There's just, how can you talk for 35 minutes about a knife? So I'm going to shake this review up a little bit and break out of my, you know, I've got a set routine, sort of an SOP as far as my reviews go. And I'm going to break away from that a little bit. We'll cover all the bases and everything. But I'm going to come at this review a little differently maybe than some of the other guys in the pass-around group that got this knife. And the reason is I am a previous multiple Medford knife owner. I have owned a Praetorian before. Now, the version I owned was a Praetorian T, which was an all-titanium frame block, and instead of the Tanto version, it was in a drop point with the Vulcan finish blade. It had a beautiful bronze titanium handle, lock side, and that knife was $750, guys. $750. That's the sort of a price that you don't know if you want to brag about it or not, because people are either going to look at you and go, wow, that's crazy cool, or they're going to say, wow, that's just crazy. Beyond that, that Praetorian that I owned, I've also owned one of the 187 series knives, the RMP model, the ramp nose model. So I'm going to come at this as a previous Medford owner and a previous higher end Praetorian owner. Now, we'll set this down. Let's go very quickly through the Medford packaging. These Medford knives are made in the USA. Every part of this knife, from what I understand, is made in the Medford shop in the United States. Now, with this knife You're going to get a very nice zipper pouch. On that, you will find the standard Medford dog tag, and this is a fully stamped standard type of dog tag, and it's got your pertinent information for Medford knives on it, contact number, 100% made in the United States, web address information, all of that. You are also going to get Greg Medford's very cool, the coolest business card in the business. It's a two-sided plexi sort of opaque clear business card, and Greg Medford is sort of unique. He gives you his personal contact information. That is Greg Medford's cell phone number. So if you own a Medford knife, you can call Greg Medford straight to his cell phone. And then you've got some information in here, and I'm not really going to go into all this. This sheet of paper is basically it's talking about their warranty terms. They are very strict. They do not allow disassembly of their knives. This other piece of paper is a care guide, and it's got some steel information on it, the different steels that Medford Knives uses. And you know, that's a pretty decent packaging on a knife. And in this case, I would expect it, guys, because what you are going to do, if you go to Blade HQ and you say, hey, I want to get one of these Praetorian productions, how much is it going to cost me? It's going to cost you 390 American greenback dollars. 390, guys. Nearly $400 on this production knife. And, you know, you can hear in my voice that I think that's a little bit expensive. And you would say, Baz on Blades, didn't you just say that you paid $750 for a Praetorian before? Yeah, you got me on that one. But I still think it's a little expensive on this, and we are going to get into that in the review. Now, this is a fairly large knife. It is a 3.75-inch blade length. That's 9.5 centimeters. Your blade stock thickness is 188 thousandths of an inch, or 4.8 millimeters. Your blade width, a very wide blade profile, 1.87 inches, or 47.75 millimeters. Handle length of 5 inches, or 12.5 centimeters. A handle thickness of 620 thousandths of an inch, or 15.8 millimeters. Handle width at the widest point here at the pivot, 1.97 inches, or 50 millimeters. Your closed width, yes, this is a very, sorry guys, this is a very wide profile knife in a closed position, and it is 2.12 inches wide, or 53.8 millimeters. Your overall length, 8.75 inches, or 22 centimeters. Stop pin diameter, it does use these thumb studs, quote unquote. They are not thumb studs. They are actually your stop pins, and they sit in these recesses, these pockets here. They are 1/4 of an inch, or 6.4 millimeters diameter. Behind the edge thickness, a very good 21 thousandths on this primary hollow ground portion of the blade, 27 thousandths of an inch on the flat ground tip, the secondary edge, and that is 0.53 millimeters and 0.70 millimeters respectively. Your blade to handle ratio, a very good 0.75, and your weight, a hefty and solid 7.62 ounces, or 216 grams. The Praetorian production model is bladed in D2 tool steel, which is a semi-stainless tool steel. It's a high carbon, 1.5 to 1.6% carbon, moderately high, but not stainless chromium level of 11.5 to 12%, and it is a vanadium alloyed steel with 0.9 to 1.1% vanadium. And what you get out of that is good to very good edge retention, decent toughness and impact resistance, although D2 can be a little chippy depending on how well it is heat treated and tempered, and decent corrosion resistance. Again, it is not qualified as a stainless steel. It is a semi-stainless steel. And I want to show you here, if you can see this area right here, that is a rust stain on this knife. It came to me from a previous reviewer with surface rust here. And the reason is that's where you put your thumb to open this knife. You use this ball milled recess as your opening point, and that's what caused that rust. So I had to clean that off and put some rust preventative on it. But D2 is not like carbon steels. It's not going to just run away rust, and it just takes a modicum of care to take care of it. But we are in the southeast United States. It is extremely humid. I mean, humidity level is 90% or higher every day right now. It's just miserably humid, and that had a lot to do with that while it was shipping. All right, so we'll go into the handle material. On this production version, you have G10 show side and back side over a single titanium liner. It is a titanium liner lock. All your small parts are Medford dedicated parts. It is a spanner wrench type pivot. Again, Medford does not allow for disassembly of their knives. You do not want to do it. It will void your warranty. If you disassemble this knife and can't get it back together and you send it back to Medford, Greg Medford is liable to call you and bitch you out on the phone. I would not put it past him, guys. It's got to be infuriating to get knives back that have been disassembled and they can't be put back together when the warranty says don't disassemble it. So don't disassemble it, guys, all right? If it's got any issues, Medford Knife and Tools, their reputation is they stand behind their products and they will take care of any issues. Now, you also do have a titanium pocket clip. All of this smaller hardware is T8 Torx, and again, I said, you know, this is a spanner type pivot, so you cannot disassemble this knife. It's, you know, it's G10 titanium and D2 tool steel with stainless hardware, guys. Pretty simple. Now, the fit and finish. This is where this knife starts to lose me, guys. There are some, in my opinion, and according to the price point, there are what I would consider to be some serious fit and finish issues on this knife. Majority of them center around the blade. And I'm going to bring this up as close as I can. I want you to look in this ball milled section here, and you're going to see all of these tooling marks, guys. That is not smooth at all. That is a great amount of tooling marks, and I don't even know what those marks are from. I would have thought that would have just been a ball milled section for any type of tooling to drag those type of lines, guys. Honestly, I'm not a machinist, but I would not think that that would happen, you know. Maybe the tooling was worn, maybe the feed speed was a little high, maybe the tool speed was a little low. I don't know, guys. But then you come down here into this hollow grind and you look at the plunge area at this hollow grind, and you're going to see a lot of tooling marks here on this end and also on the other end, guys, as it plunges down or up into this flat grind. And then on the back side, you know, I hope the camera is getting all of this. There's just a lot of tooling marks in there. A lot of tooling marks. Tooling marks that I would consider to be pretty doggone extensive and heavy. I was not very happy to see that, and I can tell you right now that on my higher end Praetorian, there were none of those tooling marks, guys. Now, these are machine ground, from what I understand, where the upper end stuff is hand ground. That could very well have something to do with it. But in 2018, for $390, you're looking at a cost range, a price range, approximately double the average zero tolerance knife that you will never see tooling marks in the grinds. $390 is on the upper end of like Riate knives, and you definitely will never see a tooling mark on a Riate knife. They are so clean you could eat off of them. So I was really not very excited about seeing all of that, guys. Another thing is the choice of blade finish here. And I do not like the choice of blade finish here. In fact, I'm going to predict that many people are going to have rust issues the way these blades are finished, and that in the future, Medford knives might want to consider changing this blade finish, and I'm going to tell you why. This looks like to me that it is a bead blasted finish, and then it is tumbled, media tumbled. And you can see that it's tumbled. It's definitely tumbled, but I think that the flat matte part of this is actually bead blast, and then it's tumbled. And bead blasting is one of the worst finishes for any steel that does not have excellent corrosion resistance, especially a tool steel that is not even considered to be stainless. The reason is bead blasting leaves a textured or pitted surface finish. And no, it doesn't feel pitted to your finger. It's a micro surface finish. Now, the tumbling will take some of that away, but there is still enough surface texture there at a microscopic level that it is going to trap moisture on that blade steel. I never ever would consider bead blasting on D2 tool steel, guys. I would not even consider that myself. And I'm surprised that Medford Knives has done this type of matte type finish. And it, you know, there obviously was an issue. You can see here with the rust, guys. Now that is just from touching that. D2 has got enough chromium in it to where just touching the blade should not cause rust issues. So I was very disappointed in that, very disappointed in the machining on the blade here at the $390 price point. Now we go up here to the handle. Handle's fine. Handle's good, man. Everything is tight and fit well, and there's no gaps, and there's no bad nail catches, and the machining's good. The G10 looks good. You got the Betsy Ross flag over here on the show side. On the back side, you've got the Medford symbol that's machined into it. All the hardware looks to be of very high quality, guys. No issues there, fit and finish. I mean, you got some nice anodizing here on this pocket clip. The handle looks fine. The fit and finish issues I see are in the blade. So we'll go to action. Now, Medford builds their knives on phosphor bronze washers. And Greg Medford, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, his background is in the aeronautical or aerospace industry, and it is common for phosphor bronze washer material to be used rather than, you know, the new fad of roller bearings. And the knife is smooth. It is a very smooth feeling phosphor bronze. I have no issue. Yes, I love bearings as much as anybody. They're golly gee whiz neato. But I have no issues with the bushing material on this knife. So the opening and closing action is good, guys. It's not a flipper. It's not a flicker. It's a roll it out with your thumb and it feels smooth. As far as closing it, you can shake it closed. It's a heavy blade, but there is resistance there. The detent is moderate. I'm not going to try to do it in front of the camera, but you can gravity open this knife fairly easy, guys. And a lot of that is attributed to how thick and heavy the blade stock is. But it does have a moderate detent. Now, the lockup on it is solid. Don't get me wrong here. It is solid, guys. It locks up very nicely. But it is a titanium liner lock against a steel blade, and that is something that I personally do not like. I have had nightmare issues in the past on high-end knives, say from the late 90s, early 2000s, when titanium really came in. And there are problems with using a soft titanium against a hardened steel. You have a couple of issues. You have wear, where it will actually wear away the titanium, and you have some impact, some crush issues with titanium. Because titanium cannot be hardened as hard as steel. It cannot be. Even the beta titanium that Mission Knives uses, you can't Rockwell it any higher than like in the upper 40s, guys. And D2 typically is going to be 60 to 62 Rockwell. You're looking at 20 points difference between those two materials. So you know, I mean, just common sense is going to tell you there's going to be wear issues. Now, just the common wear can be sort of eased by carbidizing the lock face, and that's basically you microscopically weld carbides onto the surface of that lock, and that's great. It stops that wear issue, and it stops the lock stickiness that you can get between those a hardened material and a softer material. But what you cannot mitigate is impact deformation. Titanium will deform, it will compress under impact with a harder material. There is nothing you can do about that unless you're going to use a hardened lock face insert. And what I mean by that is you see these guys testing knives and they go out and they do some spine wax on a table or a log or whatever, and they are putting the opposing pressure for the blade onto the lock face. In this case, and with any knife that uses unprotected titanium against steel, that can cause a deformation, a compression of that titanium. There is no way around that. It doesn't matter how much you pay for your knife or who makes the knife. They cannot change that. It is a proven issue in the knife manufacturing world. That is why you see everyone going to hardened steel lock face inserts. It stops the wear issues and the deformation issues. I predict there will be problems in this lock. And right now, it's sticky, guys. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. It's a sticky lock right now. And it may get better. It might wear in, or it might get worse. That's just the thing between that hard steel and the softer titanium. And you cannot predict which way it's going to go. So I'm not super happy about that, especially for $390. And I'm going to tell you guys, when I mention a price, you got to take into account, this is a fully American-made product. So you can say, Baz on Blades, this is an American-made product. They're more expensive. Yes, they can be more expensive, but you can compare this product to any other American-made brand, say high-end brand, and let's just pull zero tolerance out of the air and compare. For a zero tolerance knife, a titanium frame lock with titanium or carbon fiber show side, CPM S35VN blade steel, or the newer versions in 20CV and even better steel, you're looking at $200 to $240 generally. And that is an American-made product, and it has a better blade steel. It will have, either phosphor bronze washer pivot or bearing pivot, the KVT system. And if it is a titanium frame lock, which most zero tolerances are, it will have a hardened steel lock face insert. And it will be half approximately the cost of this knife, and also American made. And that's where I'm coming from here, guys. I don't want to bash on Medford knives because, you know what, I really like them, I do. But you have to take those things into account when you are spending nearly $400 on a knife. All right, now let's go to utility use and ergonomics and get this done. This is a Tanto Blade. It is a hollow primary grind, a flat secondary grind. It is very slicey for a thick blade, but it is a very short grind. Even this hollow grind, if you have to cut more than a ½ an inch into material, you are very quickly going to get into full blade stock thickness of 4.8 millimeters. This is never going to be a slicing machine. Will it cut? Yes, it will, guys. It is very sharp. It is very thin behind the edge, and it will very much cut. Even up here on the tip, it is just 27 thousandths behind the edge, and that's pretty doggone good. But this knife is made more with strength in mind than as an ultimate slicer, and you have to keep that in mind when considering this purchase. Do you want a big, beefy, strong knife, or do you want a dedicated slicer? This knife cannot be both. There is no way you can come across this very shallow grind right here into full 4.8 millimeter blade stock thickness and even remotely think it's going to be a slicing machine. It's not, guys. It's also going to have the limitations of a straight-edged Americanized Tanto. You don't have a continuous belly here. You know, not a huge issue. It just depends on what you like. But it's such a good-looking blade profile. I mean, it is. It's great looking, guys. I've always loved the Praetorian blade profile. Just keep its limitations in mind as far as the grinds. You do have some jimping up here. It is very wide, very deep. It carries on into the handle, and it is very crisp, guys. Many people are going to find this jimping uncomfortable. But if you have a pair of gloves on, that jimping would be perfect. Just freaking perfect, guys. Oh man, it would just so, I mean, look at this, guys. The flesh from your finger, look at how deep it goes down into that jimping. That's like jimp valleys. It's like the valley of the jimp down there, guys. That's crazy. Look at my thumb. That's how crisp that the edges on that jimping are. So it's fairly sharp, guys. I mean, it's not going to cut you or anything, but little sissy guys, they may not like that jimping. So, you know, if you're a little sissy guy, you may not like this knife. Not that anybody that was watching my channel is a little sissy guy. I don't think so. So, ergonomically, as far as the handle goes, it's a pretty wide open design. It is 5 inches long. Great design. One issue that I have with the Praetorian, the reason I got rid of my Praetorian is, you see this pass through for the lock. It is the same on this knife than it is on the frame lock versions. When you hold this knife and you hold it across here, this back side is not the same as the front side. Now look, you're not even touching the front side here, guys. That's a pretty radical change right there from one side to another. So when you hold it, that digs into your finger right there, okay? That is what I don't like about the Praetorian handle design. And for me, that was enough reason for me to get rid of my Praetorian. It's very different from side to side. The width, not a big deal. Or the thickness, not a big deal. The width, not a big deal, other than it carrying very wide in your pocket. The pocket clip is a very good design. You know, no issues there. So, guys, I don't want this to be an overly negative review, but I have to be honest about this knife. The knife is a quality knife. I think that it is lacking in certain respects for the price. I just think that it is, as far as being competitive on the market. It's a great entry point for a Medford knife, but I would probably save another $100 and just get one of the 187 models, or buy a used Praetorian G and go ahead and get the frame lock version. Me personally, I would not consider the purchase of this knife, mostly because I'm not a big fan of the Praetorian handle. It's not comfortable in my hand. But the issues that I've pointed out in this knife, honestly, it puts it so far down on a priority list for me. And there's so many knives that I think are just a design that is more modern and just better for me. That's just the way it is. So I'm not going to recommend or not recommend this knife. I'm going to say, go back and rewatch this video. Look close at those issues that I've pointed out. And, keep in mind that just because it's expensive doesn't mean that it's good. All right, guys. As always, I thank you very much for taking the time to watch one of my videos. I know this one is long. We'll get it over with. God bless all of you, and we will talk to you again.